Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the Indie Diarist podcast, a show on the human stories behind indie game development. This is your loyal Indie Diarist and host, Anthony L. Wolf, writer, narrative designer, and senior content manager in social media. And this episode is going to be a very lovely one. I'm so happy that Simon reached out to me to be featured onto the show. And if you guys are indie game developers yourselves, please get in touch, because I always have space and room to tell your stories, your beautiful and amazing and wholesome stories, to my amazing listeners from all around the world. But before we go into the episode, I want to shout out to my amazing patrons who are Feinoko, Zagini, Fishpump Dev, and Peleg. You guys are incredible, and I love having your support every single month. My Patreon tiers start from as little as £1.25 per month, and if you too, listeners, want to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/theindiediarist, or you can go to the description of the episode where you will find a link to my Patreon page. By subscribing, you gain access to episodes in advance, an archive on uncut episodes in video format on YouTube, and a lot more. But without further ado, let's go into the episode with Simon, Indie Diary number 46. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the Indie Diarist podcast, a show on the human stories behind indie game development. But today with me is an amazing guest from the indie game development community who reached out to be featured on the show specifically, and his name is Simon. He's a German developer based in France, if I remember right. Simon, I won't say much about what you do. Tell the listeners a bit about yourself, what you do. What are you doing right now? That kind of stuff.
Yes, hello. Thanks for having me. So I'm a little bit sheep in a wolf fur. Is that correct? Like, I think there's a saying like that.
As an idiom, yeah, maybe.
Because I'm by day a professional game developer. Since 2006, I'm in the industry, and I started as 3D artist, as environment artist, and then in 2015 or 16, I switched to full-time VFX. So now I'm doing explosions and footsteps and thunderstorms, lightning, little magical sparkles, whatever that is. But because for some reason the work by day wasn't enough for me. I started a side project, and that is actually the reason why I'm here, because up to now you would ask, hey, this is an indie podcast, what does this guy do here? A professional developer. So yeah, I started a side project, which by the way released yesterday, so it's very hot, kind of. And
for the listeners, yesterday is the 3rd of May, so this episode will be live, like the game will be out for a while when you listen to this one. But yes, that's nice that I caught you exactly the day after it came out. Please go on. Sorry.
Yes, no, with pleasure, no problem. Yes, and that's the reason why I'm here, because I was listening to your podcast, which is, by the way, super cool.
Thank you.
I just listened this morning to the new episode with Isa Maelstrom, I think.
Isa Maelstrom, yeah.
Super cool. And nice. Very inspiring. So, and at the end, you always say, hey, if you are a developer, please reach out. And I was like, hey, I'm in PR mode right now with my little game. So why not sending a little message? And you answered, and I was very, very happy, and we could make it happen. So it was super cool. I'm happy.
Yeah,
to be
might
here.
As well reach out indeed. Yeah, no. Well, you did well, because I mean, your little side project, we'll get into it. We'll talk about it later. I always like to build up to it a little bit. But your game is called Cozy Space Survivors. And it does exactly what it says. It's a Cozy Space Survivors, time survival roguelite, if I remember right. But you'll talk about it later. But yeah, so I'm glad that you reached out, because as I say at the end of every episode, if you are an indie game developer who wants to share their story to the world, then please send me a message, send me an email. You can go into theindiediarist.com, you can go on socials, you can find my contacts pretty much everywhere. But yeah. So, well, you've listened to my podcast before, Simon, so you know that I always like to open these episodes with a little icebreaker. And for you, the icebreaker is going to be pretty much the same as for the past 6 months or so. If you could be any game's character for a day, who would you be and why?
So, I thought about it, and I choose Lara Croft.
Oh, okay.
So, and here's why. Isa in the last episode mentioned something like the Dragonborn, because then you can use magic.
Yeah.
But I mean, imagine you tasted this warm power of magic, and then you lose it after one day. So that would be horrible, right? You cannot go back from that.
Okay.
And what I like about games in general is that they can potentially make you feel like you are in a different role, right? So they give you maybe an experience you cannot have in your normal life. And so the first thing would be being impersonated as a woman one time would I think be a very interesting experience for me as just a standard guy, right? So it would be just very, very nice. And I think walking in the shoes of others or walking the steps of others, it's really hard for me with these sayings.
I mean, we're two non-native speakers, so there's no chance we're going to get an idiom right during this episode.
But anyway, it can give you a lot of experience and empathy for how other people feel. So that would be nice. And then also, I think Lara Croft is a super cool character, but if I would have thirst after this one day to, for example, know more about archaeology or traveling the world or something, this could be achieved. Like if I see, oh wow, want to see the huge mountain by myself or something, then or climbing or I don't know, going in the desert, it would be something I could maybe do with a lot of studying and preparation, of course. But so. And with her experience, I imagine that you take when you switch back to you, that you take all this experience with you. So I would have in my experience all her memories, what she has seen. She saw the whole world, right? And then I could see, oh wow, this is so cool. I now want to travel to this place as well in person. So that's why I choose Lara Croft.
Well, I guess there's a question about whether you do lose the memories as well of your experience, or you just retain what that mind held in terms of a character. I suppose you would lose some of it, but at least you would remember living as that character for a day. It's an interesting answer, the one you gave though. It's like a mix of empathy to try and understand someone else's, fit into someone else's shoes and just walk in their life for a while, and also archaeology and all the athletics, all the exploration, which can be very exciting when you're not trying to shoot down gorillas. So
I wouldn't do that, and also I would not kill a T-Rex if I see one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that there's no chance I would survive against a T-Rex with a double barrel, not double barrel, with a double gun, pistol, and whatnot.
Yes.
Dual-handed. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. But yeah, okay. Well, that's a great way to start this episode, because Lara Croft is, of course, some sort of a vintage icon, although she's still very relevant today. But she was born in the 90s, so let's talk about the games of your childhood, for example. So when you think about your childhood, like what's the earliest or fondest memory that has to do with video games?
I have an earliest, but I think the fondest is the better, because the earliest is just a very old PC, and it's, I think, a space game which faked 3D flying forward in kind of a corridor, and of course it used just pink and bluish colors or something, and maybe ASCII symbols. Problem is, I cannot find this game anymore. I tried several times to go into these old archives of I don't know, dosgaming.org or something like that, some websites like that. And
have you tried Tip of My Joystick on Reddit? It's a subreddit where you can literally ask people, what's this game that had this kind of graphical style, this kind of stuff, and this kind of stuff? And people are super responsive. So if someone knows that game and has played that game, they will find it for you.
Oh, that sounds.
So you could try that.
Thank you for the tip. I will try that. Yes.
Yeah,
but this is the earliest. But the fondest was something, and that's interesting to me because it's fond and problematic at the same time. Because I mean, everyone knows Civilization, right? But maybe not all people know that there are side tracks of this brand, and one of them is colonization.
Oh,
And
right.
colonization
I didn't know about that.
is just by when you hear the word and you are historically a little bit aware. Then let's say there are also negative sides to that
Yeah,
part.
let's say there are some negative sides to colonization, maybe.
Yes, and of course you play going to the so-called New World, right? It's a very
Uh-huh.
Western-centric view, and of course they don't care about any of the problematic things, right? You go there, and the indigenous people, they are all very nice, and you can trade with them. So nothing of the
Yeah,
bad
sure, they
parts
were.
is thing. But personally, I always preferred that game, especially when I was younger and I did not know about all these things, because it's a bit simpler than Civilization. And the very fond memories, actually, I was very young, and my brother played it, and it was a small room, and on the other side of the computer was a couch, and I was always loving to just be on this couch and watching my brother play, and I actually did not really watch what he's doing. I was just enjoying the time to be with my brother. He played the game, and I imagined how it is to be in one of these track caravans with these wagons, and just be in this little wagon, and then just, I don't know, look out of the wagon, I guess, and enjoy the view. It's a
Okay.
little bit. Do you know when you are a kid and you build a little house with your with a mattress and a pillow or something, and I did something like
Yeah,
this as well, and then I
course.
imagined I'm in one of these wagons, right? And
Right.
I really enjoyed just being there with my brother and not even watching what exactly he's doing, but sometimes I wanted to know what he's doing in
Yeah,
the game.
just being part of the experience,
Yes.
though. Yeah, no, that's a great memory, and
Yeah.
and as I always say on these episodes, when it comes to this point, some of my earliest memories with video games involve playing with my uncle Final Fantasy, or just watching him play games like Final Fantasy, even Metal Gear Solid, which I didn't understand
Yeah.
as a kid, and then I grew up to love. So yeah, it's always special when someone introduces you to gaming, and you can share those experiences together. But actually, it's interesting that you mentioned your earliest memory that involves video games, and it was a space game. So I suppose those early experiences are having an influence on the kind of stuff that you're doing now.
Huh. Now, when you say it like that, I didn't think about it like that. But space in general is, of course, yeah. I mean, I'm not a hardcore Star Trek or Star Wars fan, but of course, the topics touch me. And I worked on a space simulation for a while, for 5 years in my professional
Okay.
job. So you could say that, yeah. But I also worked on an RPG and stuff like that. So, but it's true. I mean, yeah, I maybe we come later to that, because I know you later have a question.
Yeah.
What would you do with your budget and stuff like that? And
Yeah,
I prepared an answer for that, but I cannot tell it now what I would do. But it has something to do with space, actually.
Wait. What was that question? Because I may have taken it out. What?
It's if you have unlimited budget and time.
All right. Okay. No,
what
that's
would you
still
do?
there. Okay. That's it's at the end. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. I won't cut this out. It's fine. Well, then I guess we'll get to that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious to know at this point, when did you realize you wanted to make games? Like, was there a specific epiphany moment where you said, "Oh, this is what I want to do"?
Not specifically games, but I know that I was at a dinner table. I was, I don't know, 10, 11 or something.
Mhm.
And
Oh, wow.
I was dragged to computers, like by myself. I don't know what it was, but just there was this computer. I think my father bought it at some point, and somehow I wanted to use it, right? And of course, at the beginning it was MS Paint, and we painted a lot and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But at some point, he just threw a sentence there, like, "Oh yeah, I think there's this QBasic. I think you can program with that." And I was immediately hooked. Like, what? You can what? And then I stood up and I went to the computer, looked up this weird QBasic, and it is still today, up to today, the only programming language I discovered where you can actually copy and paste the examples from the help file just in your little script thingy, and it just works. You don't have to, I don't know, include anything or set up an IDE or anything, right? It just works. And it was amazing just to do the first little steps with that. And I didn't do games with that. but I think it evolved from this thing, because then, of course, when you play games later, you have imagination like, oh, how cool would it be to do that? But it was a time there was no internet back then. You could go to the library to look stuff up, but to be honest, the books there were mostly about, oh yeah, here from 0 to 1 Pascal or QBasic, but it was not, hey, let's do a game.
Yeah, no, there weren't projects and such. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and it developed later. But I noticed very early on that I'm not so good in mathematics and stuff, like the higher stuff. And then I realized I like graphics more, and then I started with HTML and did a little text adventure and stuff like that. But yeah, soon the urge to do some games developed, but to actually have the knowledge to actually develop a game, this came a little bit later then.
Yeah, and about that, what is the very first game you developed? And it doesn't have to be something you release, because I suppose Cozy Space Survivor is your first release, but do you remember the very first game that you tried to make?
I have actually, I can send you a link later, a video from a very early game. It's called Fighter. It's a space game, actually. Now that you connected some dots there, which I did not see.
There's clearly something there, yeah.
And it's basically just a black background, a little ship, and you can fly around, and there are some asteroids coming, which you have to evade. This is a very early thing. I don't know if it's the first, but it's definitely the first where I actually have something to show, which I can show even today and say, hey, look, this is,
Well, that's cool. Yeah, okay. Yes. And I want to say, well, you've been in the industry for a while, of course, as a VFX artist and as an artist in general, but also you're actually programming stuff. So is there some sort of a development challenge that has left a mark on you, and something that you may want to share with other devs from your experience in the industry?
That's a broad question.
Well, think of any trauma that the industry might have given you, and how you and challenges and such. But if there's anything that stuck and that is still in your mind today, then might be interesting for other people to hear.
Yes, it is, but it's a double-edged sword. And actually, first, it's very personal. I know other people have other opinions, but I would say avoid custom engines.
Okay.
And the problem is that the only reason that I'm here today, or at least that I'm a VFX artist now, the reason is that I worked with custom engines. So just to give an overview, so a custom engine is technology developed by a company and only used there. So people who come in have to learn it. People go out.
First-party engines, basically. Yeah,
and people who go leave the company cannot use a lot of the knowledge. And the problem is usually these companies do these engines not just because they love engines. They actually want to do a game. So they develop the technology and the game at the same time.
So it gets messy.
It gets not only messy, it gets also very time constrained, because the actual goal is a game. So if you, as a content creator, and I was a content creator, I was not a programmer, because when you have many programmers like these custom engines, because then they have full control. And if they are annoyed by something, they can fix it. I, as a little artist, if I say, hey, it is horribly inefficient to use these tools to get, for example, my little asset in the game, then they say, yes, I hear you, but there's this milestone, and there's always a milestone more important than your little tool request. I'm sorry, I can't do it for you. And it really, you want to do cool things, and the engines, the tool set often holds you back. I worked with 3 different custom engines over 15 years, and it was really, when you then touch Unity, Godot, or the Unreal CryEngine, it feels like heaven. It feels like you are finally able to run and nothing holds you back anymore. And when anyone is complaining about Unreal, Unity, like, oh, yeah, I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about.
You have no idea.
You did not cross the horrifying deserts of pain you have to go as a content creator when you use custom engines. That's it.
Well, then again, I think some people in the indie game development community even do their own custom engines for their games. Yes. I think I know some people who have worked on their own. But yeah, like I know a guy who's developing his own version of Ink, as in the Inkle, from the developers of Heaven's Vault. In Cool Studios, I think they are.
Mm-hmm.
And because he's doing like a very heavily text-based, not text-based, but very heavily narrative-led adventure, and he made his own custom engine. But yeah, I mean, I get what you mean. Of course, engines like third-party engines like Unreal and Unity and Godot, they're kind of packaged to be sold, but also to be commercially available and also to be as widespread as possible. So they have loads of features and they have loads of well-refined things, despite their shortcomings that that a custom engine wouldn't have.
Yeah, I mean,
So, yeah.
by design, they need artist friendly, and I just want to underline this again. If you do your own engine, then you have full control, and then it's okay.
Yeah.
But if you have to use the engine and you are not able to quickly change the code and improve something, then it can be very, very horrifying. I heard people say that other custom engines are better, but my personal experience over 15 years is, and it is so frustrating because you begin. I mean, we all, I guess, know what imposter syndrome is.
Mm-hmm. No, I know very
But
well.
when this technology holds you so much back, then at least for me, it was like I start to believe that I am the problem, that I am the bad artist who is not able to get good stuff into the game and make it look good. But maybe the truth is that making things look good needs a lot of iteration, and this is exactly what often custom engines, in my experience, lack to give you a good workflow so that you can iterate fast. So this is something which is very dear to my heart. Actually, it's
right. Yeah, no, it's a good point. I know a lot of people out there will agree. And it's also a nice segue into your current career now, because we're getting closer to the present, of course. So, what's it like to be a games VFX artist in France? Because I know that, like, I come from Italy, and there the games industry is struggling, to say the least. The local games industry. In the UK, it's somewhat better. There are some funds and stuff, but like, how's the industry in France right now?
I don't dare to speak about the whole country and the industry, to be honest.
Okay.
But what I really like about Montpellier, here I'm in Montpellier in the south, which is amazing. It's a relatively small city in comparison to something big like London or Berlin, but there are many game developers here, many small studios. There's also one Ubisoft here, and many people of this huge company sometimes split up and make their own little things. And when you go to a game development meeting here, it is as packed as they were in Berlin. So even though Berlin is way bigger, so I would say at least here in Montpellier, the industry is strong. Like, at least there are a lot of passionate people here, and there is, as far as I know, state funding available. Okay. But I never applied for something like that. But in general, I have the feeling also the comic culture is
right.
way stronger here than, for example, in Germany. Of course, it changed over the years, but let's say 20 years back, comics were something for kids when you were in Germany, and here I think in France it was always more appreciated. So my feeling, but I might be wrong, would be that here in France it's more of a common or appreciated art form, maybe. And just from my perspective of Montpellier, it's super cool, and there are a lot of cool events here in France as well. So also in the north. And I think also Lyon is super strong. So in general, I have a good feeling about it. Of course, right now, everyone is struggling with money. I mean, it's a worldwide phenomenon. But in general, I would say it's really nice.
It's nice. It sounds like Montpellier is the Guildford of France, because here in the UK, near London, there's a small town called Guildford. And that's where a lot of game studios are. Media Molecule is based there. And of course, the guys that made Little Big Planet. So... it sounds like it's a very similar thing. Apparently, maybe a lot of game studios avoid big towns. Well, not the AAA game studios, of course, but maybe smaller, medium-sized game studios might avoid big towns and try to focus on smaller centers, because it's probably easier to just pay the rent, maybe, and then keep business afloat than in somewhere, say, like London. Where rents are absolutely over the roof. So yeah, I can see why it would happen.
And I think DMA Design, which is now Rockstar, started also in UK, right? It was
Which one?
DMA, now Rockstar Games.
Oh, Rockstar.
But I think
well, I don't know about Rockstar's history, but it might be. Yeah,
the first GTAs at least, 1 and 2.
Yeah, it could be because I think there were set like maybe either the first one or the second one. One of them that was maybe set in London, or there was one set in London at some point. So it could be that they kind of started here, but I'm not too familiar with the history of Rockstar. I'll have to look into it. But yeah, so I guess now we are at the present. Like we talked about your career and how you moved into how you started developing games, making games, how you started playing around with it. What inspired you to work on Cozy Space Survivors? And I guess apart from all the influences from your earlier games, from the earlier games that you played, and the very first game that you played, is there something else?
Yeah, the biggest one is Vampire Survivors for me.
Right. Okay.
Because
I could have spotted it from the name. Actually.
Yeah. But I think that's also a personal thing. I was playing. No, I did not play a lot of twin stick shooters like Alien Breed. Right. It's just for some reason. When you have a gamepad and then you have to aim with one stick and you have to walk with the other, even though in a shooter it's no problem for me, I don't like it when it's from top down like that. So I never played these twin stick shooters. And then I was thinking, because so many people like them, I was thinking maybe I'm the problem.
Yeah. Well, I love them, but I wouldn't say you are the problem.
Yeah, but you know, I don't know if you know that sometimes you are like, hey, I don't really understand why people like this and this and this, and then maybe it's your own taste. I don't know, but then Vampire Survivors came out, and what they did is now you only move and the aiming is automatically, and this changed everything for me, and I'm so happy because millions of people think the same way. So maybe it's not me who was the problem.
Yeah, well, I guess Vampire Survivor tapped into some sort of interest that was like, you know, twin stick shooters are fine, but also what if you could just move and then the game handles the shooting for you and you just have to worry about dodging and being strategic about your movements. Yeah. Well, it's interesting that we mentioned top-down shooters and twin stick shooters because I just before this call I was playing Nier Automata, and you know that there are a lot of sections. There are top-down twin stick shooters there, and I got through the whole thing. I had played this game like years ago, but I never got the platinum trophy. So I sat down and was like, okay, I just need this one trophy, and I got it. So I got through the credits and the ending E and whatnot. So that was beautiful. But yeah, I can see I love them because I like when my brain splits into two and I have to move and at the same time shoot and be very careful about where I'm aiming and at the same time dodge a lot of stuff. Even though a lot of stuff happens on screen, I love what happens in my brain when that takes place. I suppose that's why a lot of people might love twin stick shooters as well. But Cozy Space Survivors and Vampire Survivors, they are an interesting subgenre as well, which is something that definitely worth exploring more.
I wonder, what is your feeling when you, for example, finish a session of this game? Like, is your body like shaking because of all the adrenaline because it was so exciting, or are you relaxed?
It's excitement. Yeah, I think it's excitement. Like when I finish a hacking section in Nier, because there you also have a time constraint sometimes. Like you have like 30 seconds to finish a hacking sequence. It's like a mini game within the game, and if you win it, of course you deal damage to an enemy. And when you actually manage, when all of that was happening on screen and you have the little moment, that little break between the mini game and going back to the real-time action, that moment of relief and you're like, oh yes, I did it. Woo! And then you go back to the game. I think that's what I like about it. Just the moment when you win and you overcame everything that was on screen at the same time. And it was such chaos. So yeah.
Okay, because what I like about Vampire Survivors is that I can listen to a podcast while I'm playing it, and I'm relaxed. You know, it's for me and that's why my game is called Cozy Space Survivors. It's kind of a cozy game, not because what you see. I mean, there's a lot of killing involved, So it's not very
Yeah,
cozy.
so it's a bit less cozy,
but
than
it makes a
than
cozy
usual cozy.
feeling in myself, right? Because I'm calm, I can enjoy it. It's a relaxing game for me.
Also got a cute art style. I've seen the characters; they look very cute.
That's true. But also Vampire Survivors, which has the vampires thematic, or my favorite Hordes of Torment. I really love this game. This has more a Diablo 1 aesthetic, right? And these are not very, kid friendly, maybe.
Yeah,
but
yeah, exactly.
but inside myself, I feel calm and relaxed, and that's what I really love about this thing. And by the way, another reason why I started this game, and I think this is great in general for indie developers or for hobbyists. I think Vampire Survivors is kind of easy to copy, and it's a fantastic experience or exercise to do, because you don't need a lot of AI. It's just really, oh, there's the player, I move toward it. You ignore everything else, right? And you only need some little sprites moving toward the player, and then you need the player, and that's basically it. The player has to shoot a little bit.
The player has to shoot, yeah,
and
that's
then
probably the most important thing,
you have already a game, and when you then make a little upgrades that maybe the player shoots a bit faster or the bullets make a bit more damage, then you are already done. This is the base game, and that's a fantastic exercise, and it's so fun, and it generates fun super early in the process, and that was actually also a reason why I started. It was like, oh, I have to try this. It looks so simple to do. 10 months later,
it does sound like yeah, probably wasn't, but because of all the art involved and all the probably all the features and polishing and such, that can take a while. But yeah, no, it's a great tip actually, because I developed a few small games that just as an exercise when I was getting into programming a bit more. But I never really did like one finished game from start to finish. They were more like mini games. So maybe it's another thing to add to my exercise book. Maybe I'll just do a Vampire Survivor style game, just as an exercise. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as you like these bullet hell games, it would be interesting, because what I liked is you start with just copying Vampire Survivors, and then you add your own little things. And in your case, it would be interesting what you add, so that your brain is stimulated again, and maybe you find a new little formula, which is just a nuance.
Probably a lot of stuff on screen, definitely. A lot of bullets. It would be some sort of like platformer where you have to dodge. Oh yeah, well I'll have to think about it. It could be that I find my own formula actually. Yeah,
you heard it here first. It's announced now.
Yeah. You get royalties if I get money, if I get any money out of it. So, but yeah, about Cozy Space Survivors. If you could go back so far, I know that of course after release there's still some work to do. But is there anything you would change about the development of the game?
No, not. One thing. I'm using physical entities or physics bodies for all enemies, all bullets, and the player. This is not very smart, because these are more costly from a performance standpoint than just having sprites. And so here's my thinking. I started with just using sprites, and then when you play Binding of Isaac, right? What I really
I love that.
What I really like about this game is there is a little bit of physicality. For example, when there is something on the ground, let's say a bomb or a coin, and you can't collect it, it is still pushed a little bit. It's not just there, but when you walk over it, it gets pushed around. Yeah. And I love this. And I wanted...
Also how the tears fall after a while. Like yes. Yeah, and you can see them falling.
Also, when you move, they drift a little bit. They inherit a little bit of your velocity. And I really like that. So I wanted to have, for example, that when a bullet hits an asteroid and the asteroid is not destroyed, it should get pushed a little bit, Something like that. Okay. So that's what I wanted. And at the beginning, I started with sprite, but of course, when a bullet hits a sprite, nothing happens. There is no physical behavior. I started to fake this, like making a little function like add impulse, and it felt like, oh man, this is very complicated to do, because in theory, you want your bullet push a big asteroid a little bit less than a small one. So you have to fake mass behavior, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, that's a little bit too much. Come, let's just use real physics bodies, because then you get everything for free, right? You just say, hey, bullet, here's your impulse, boop, and you move, and everything else is for free. Yes, and now I realize that the performance is sometimes not perfect. And so that is the one thing I would tell myself, hey, stay with the fakey stuff.
Stay with sprites, yeah. You'll figure it out.
Yes. But apart from that, I'm very happy. I'm very happy how it went.
Okay.
And
it does sound like it. Yeah, it sounds like it was a really nice project for you. And I hope it is successful. And well, about being happy and whatnot, I guess we are now at the core of the show and the core question that stands behind the whole purpose of the Indie Diarist. Why are you a game developer, Simon? What is it that drives you forward?
Like I said, the computer and QBasic just were like a magnet for me, and I cannot say why. Just I don't know. Some other people might be dragged to something else, like Jura or some other archaeology or something, right? But for me, it was this thing, and I find it still after I started in 2006, so it's in 2 years, it's 20 years. Actually, it's 18 years then. Wow, that's crazy.
Getting there, getting towards 20.
And all of these years, I almost never thought, oh man, it's boring, or I looked at the clock and the wall and oh man, when I can go home. It happens sometimes, yes, and sometimes there are frustrating areas, especially with custom engines. But but it was never boring, and especially now that I switched into VFX and there are so much different things to do, it's just an amazing job. And also, I'm basically literally almost everything I have is thanks to the games industry or my job. For example, my girlfriend, we are together for 14 years now. We met in a games company, right? And I'm in France now because of the games industry, because I work here at the company. And before I was working for a Spanish company, so I visited Spain a lot. And actually, I struggled a little bit when I was young, when I was doing my apprenticeship and finished school. I did not really know what to do, what I want, what really interests me. And the only thing...
Yeah, well, I was the same, to be honest, yeah.
And to be honest, if there would have not be the games industry and luckily a school where I could attend to learn how game development works in Berlin, I'm not sure what I would have done back then, because there was nothing else which really made me think, oh, I want to do this.
It's nice. I mean, it feels like games fit well with your life, or at least you make your life fit around games very well, and you like that.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's what you really want to do, and everything that has to do with games then pushes you forward.
Yeah.
So gaming itself pushes you forward. Maybe it drives you forward to just know that you're working in games, because that's the only thing that you feel like you could ever do. The only thing that gives you fulfillment in life.
I mean, the problem is that gaming... I don't do too much anymore because
well, of course, working in games.
but development is just it. Because I don't know if you had this, because you just mentioned you had the same issue. I also had the same issue in general, having not a much interest. Now it's totally different. I learned French, I learned Spanish. Now I have, this was not like that before, but now I have an interest in languages. Now
Yeah, like, German, French because you live in France, and you said Spanish and English. So, 4 languages. They're pretty much the same languages I know, apart from German.
No is a big word. I speak some words in French, of course, and Spanish was unfortunately overwritten by French now. It's really... My brain is not made for languages, but it's just that I developed an interest in these things, and I did not have this before. And what I like about game development is you touch so many areas. When you, for example, I had to make a little effect so that the cloth of a character gets wet. And then I started reading about, how is this with cloth? How does it react to water? Why is it getting darker, for example, when there is a water drop on it? And how does it dry? And all these things. So you dive into so many different topics, which I would have never touched before. But after you did it, is like, oh man, I would even go study this because it's so interesting. Right.
I get a similar feeling with what I do as a writer, because you have to do a lot of research when you write stories. You have to do a lot of research when you write in general. And so you end up touching a lot of different subjects and you end up being very interested in them. I know a lot about surveillance because I write I'm writing a dystopian novel, so I had to do a lot of research around surveillance states and like credit score systems and credit ratings and whatnot. So it's you do end up learning so much in a creative field, in game development, in writing, in a lot of other fields as well, I'm sure.
Yes.
And it's always a fascinating feeling.
Yeah.
Well, you've told me what drives you forward as a game developer and why you're a game developer, but what do you love and hate, would you say, about being an indie dev?
I mean,
an indie dev.
The indie dev thing. What I found most frustrating was, of course, and that many people say this, by the way, marketing stuff.
I've heard that
because
more than a few times.
It takes a lot of time to preparing these graphics for Steam, the little logos and the little envelopes, I think they are called, the little banners, took me so much time because I had to reiterate about over my logo, and it's days. I mean, when you work on it on the side and you have only in the evening, you spend some hours, and then it's like maybe one whole week just for these stupid little graphics, and you're like, hey, I could have implemented 2 new cool weapons in the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And let's say if it turns out to be a great hit, and then all the people on social media go, wow, this is the best graphics I've ever seen, then that would be, of course, fulfilling. But it is very hard to get visibility. So you are spending so much time in these marketing things and trying to figure out some cool tweets or some toots or some skies or threads.
But cutting through the noise is really difficult.
And you don't get a lot of response. And this is quite the opposite of what you're actually doing with the game, because when you work on the game, you spend time and then stuff happens on the screen. And this is amazing. And then you can show it to people maybe, and like in your little community, and they react to it, and that's fun. But all the other thing can be very frustrating. And to be honest, I mean, if you want, I can give you actually the latest sale numbers, because I don't have a publisher, so I can speak openly about these things.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But if I would be full-time indie, I would be a bit worried right now. But luckily, I'm not depending on the sales, and so it was very relaxing when I could just enjoy the whole process. It was,
because it's extra, isn't it?
It was very, very nice, yes. So
nice. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. But so just to give you an overview, so it released yesterday, right? And I think now we are at peak sales, and it sold 412 units, and it made $871.
Well, that's not too bad. I mean, yes, you spent 12 months on it, but
no, but this is
it's extra money.
This is of course before the taxes and all the stuff. So I guess let's say 400. Let's say 50% go away with everything. Okay. Like I said, it's totally fine for me. But if I have to pay rent from that right now, that would be...
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen, is it? Yeah. Yeah, well, I get it. And the marketing is a big struggle for a lot of people. But you are doing it on the side, so any extra money is good.
I'm absolutely satisfied and happy. Totally fine. It's just that when you said what is frustrating about the indie life, that would make me go crazy if I would be dependent on that right now, and that would be so frustrating and would keep my mind busy, that I think it would infect my ability to actually work on the game, and that would be something that's very hard. So respect to all the indies out there who go through the struggle and stay strong.
Yeah, and some of them are solo devs who are working on the side. Some of them may be trying to do this full time, and sometimes it just doesn't work the first time around, and so they have to pivot and do stuff. And it's all our support goes to them, because you guys are amazing and you have a creative vision. Just maybe sometimes you need a little help to push it out there, and that's where publishers and social media agencies or figures come in. But yeah. Well, Simon, I think we're nearly there. We got only 2 more questions that you know exactly what they are, but I'm going to put a nice spin on one of them, because I think it could be fun. So imagine, picture this. You're at the dinner table and you're talking about computers with your dad and such, and you're about to go to that computer and try QBasic for the first time. As you boot up the computer, you find a letter from your old self. What would it say?
it would say, it would.
Imagine your old self now. So you now sending a letter to that kid.
Yes.
However many years ago.
I guess it would say something like, it's not as complicated as you think. So try to figure it out or ask people or something. Just to give you an example, QBasic is a language where most of the programs came in clear code. So it was, I think with version 7, they introduced that you actually can compile exe files. Before that, whenever you got a program, you could look at the code and learn from it. I never did that. So big mistake. And and I remember that there was a game. It was very simple. Imagine you have 9 squares, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, and I think it was you have to uncover where under which square something is located, and you had to press 1 to 9, and you just and in my little children brain, I was like, wow, this is like. I mean, they have to simulate the cards somehow. How is this possible to do something like this? I would have never be able to do something like this because I was thinking that it's made way more complicated than it actually is, right? And if I would have been smart and like, hey, let's open the code, let's look at how it is done, and if I don't understand it, then let's ask someone who's maybe a bit older. I think with studying that, I could have learned earlier how actually making a game works. And that there is sometimes a little bit less magic behind these things, but because I'm very, very sure that this little QBasic game had nothing to do with physical simulated cards or something like that. It was just you press a button and there was a random generator and it would tell you if you got it right or wrong. But I had this thinking not at all in my little mind back then. So that would be something. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. No. That's a great answer. And basically, you would just give tech tips to your younger self, just so they would know how to approach game development a bit better. Okay. Yes. That's good. That's good. Very practical. I like that. Well, then you said you prepared your answer for this one, so here it comes. If you had unlimited budget and time, what game would you make?
So first answer, I would not finish any game at all, because when you have no time pressure, you would never finish a game because it's never really finished. Okay. But let's say I hire someone. I learned that some companies have people, they are called finishers, and these people are there to make you finish a game. And when you say, oh, I would like to implement this feature, they say, no, you will finish the game. So I would hire a finisher first, who tells me that in, let's say, 3 years, I have to be finished. And then I would make, and here are we at the space games again, I would make an 4X game, like basically like SimCity or like Stellaris, for example. Something like that, but in space, like Stellaris. But for people with not much time and who have not the time to invest 5 to 10 hours in tutorials to learn the systems. I want to have basically I want to have a game like this made by Blizzard, the early Blizzard, like when Blizzard was cool and did games which are very easy to learn and then hard to master. Because I like these games, but I don't have the patience to learn all the strategies, but I would like to play them, and I would love a game where you don't have to read anything, you just intuitively know what to click, and I would spend a lot of time and money into like I don't know, people researching UI and just to make it that you really understand by just looking at what you see, and then you can have this amazing space game. And also I would like to add more trading, because I don't like that these games are mostly about killing the other factions or doing weird political thing. Yeah,
something a bit more pacifist then.
Yeah, and going back to the start, what I liked about this, what we already established, a little bit problematic colonization, there you could have, for example, you could make tabak, and then you could make the next product stage, it was then cigarettes, right? And I really like these little how they called economy cycles, you know, and then refining a product and stuff like that. These things I would like in space, and then sell my space cigarettes and get rich.
Well, Manor Lords is a similar system. It just came out, but also, you know, a lot of resource management and the real-time strategy. Well, I'd say more like settlement builders have that kind of system where you do go from the raw material to the refined product, and then you can sell it and trade.
Yes.
But yeah, Manor Lords does it very well, and it's crazy that it was made. I think it was made by just one person.
It is.
Because there's like so that's impressive the way
I
that
would
game
say
works.
it's depressing almost, and it can almost be disencouraging. But actually, I wanted to do a little bit of research, and I hope that I find out that at least he did not do all the graphics himself. I don't know.
Yeah, because
But if that guy did all the programming, all the game design, and the graphics, and the effects, and everything, then I'm really...
And the animations and such, and
I
all
stop,
of that.
I just stop. I will, I don't know, really, I go to archaeology or something.
Well, one guy made Stardew Valley, and one guy made, I think Braid was made by just Jonathan. Yeah, exactly. So just one guy, and To the Moon was made by Kangao, I think. So yeah, or now it's Freebird Games. They're making several games, but yeah. Anyway, right. But well, there are some rising stars in indie gaming. There are some people who are absolutely incredible. Oh, I don't know if you know, and that's for the listeners as well. AI Code. Written AIKODE on socials. I think it's one girl who's developing a whole Nier inspired game, which feels like a Final Fantasy. Like, it's huge. It's got a lot of game systems. It's super refined already. Yes. I have no idea how that person is doing it. But anyway, well, Simon, I think, you're looking at it right now.
If I may add another one, there is this one game, Bright Memory. I think it's an ego shooter, and I think it was also done by one guy. I think he's Chinese, and when you look at it, it looks very nice, and it's like, how are these people doing this? It's amazing. It's very impressive. I have no idea.
I have absolutely
big
no
respect.
idea. It is impressive, but yeah. Well then, Simon, I guess it's time for some parting words. First of all, thank you for coming onto the show and wanting to come onto the show. Where can other people find you? And if they do, what is the best way to support you?
You can go to simont.de. This is my link tree, and this is a bit hard to decipherate right now. It's Simon Schreibt. So this is my nickname. And
okay. I'll find it and put it in the description because
thank you. Yes, schreiben is actually the German word for to write a letter or something.
Okay, all right. Okay.
So people sometimes think Schreibt is my last name, but that's not true. Yes, and if you want to support me, you can buy my game. It's only €2 right now, and when the release how's it called? The discount is gone, then it will be €3. So it's no, it's not achievable. How's it called? It's
cheap.
No, it's affordable. That's the word. Yes, thank you. But actually, more than the money, I'm interested in feedback. So it's so cool when people come and say, "Hey, your game was nice." Yeah. So that's
nice.
Nice. Yeah.
Okay. Well, great. Yeah, go. I'll put all of these links in the description of the episode so you can check out Simon and his work. And, of course, do buy Cozy Space Survivors. Try the demo, wishlisted, buy it. Do everything you can to support Simon and let him know if you liked the game. But yeah, other than that, Simon, again, thank you so much. It's been a lovely chat. I loved speaking to you. And wishing you the best of luck with Cozy Space Survivors and whatever comes
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, and that's a wrap on another beautiful episode of the Indie Diaries podcast. And as I always like to say, it's not beautiful because of me, but beautiful because of the amazing people that choose to come onto the show and want to be featured onto the show. So again, thank you so much, Simon, for wanting to be part of the Indie Diaries and for wanting your very own Indie Diary number 46, because it was a lovely conversation, and I'm sure you're going to do great with Cozy Space Survivors. So listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show or leave a rating, 5 stars. That always helps and pleases the goals of the algorithm. And if you do want to support the show in any other way, you can leave a donation via Ko-fi or patreon.com. You can find links in the description of the episode, and you can also, of course, as I mentioned, find links to support Simon as well. If you want a shortcut, you can go to theindiediaries.com, where you will find all of the links, including links to the Discord community and to the newborn YouTube channel, which is going to ramp up some activity over summer. So yeah, lastly, if you are an indie game developer yourself, please get in touch, because I would love to hear from you and hear your story. New slots are opening up towards the end of the year to feature some more developers from the indie game development community. And my listeners are always consistently hungry for new and amazing stories from indie game development. So yeah, I'll speak to you next time.